Okay, I'm going to move on now to what we do for international broadcast. Indonesia is a really great example of one of our international co-productions, and they have a rich math curriculum. So included recognizing and understanding the meaning of numbers. It included math concepts like more and less, size, weight, length, volume, and symmetry. It included geometric forms like shapes on paper, but also recognizing and looking for shapes in the environment. In the area of telling time, it provided some education about looking for environmental clues about what time it is, but then also introducing children to different ways that clocks look. So digital versus analog clocks and how time is represented in kind of out in the real world. Finally, it does go into some math functions, including partitioning, addition, subtraction, and estimation. And basically what we have in Indonesia is 5 seasons of television and a couple hundred episodes that were originally broadcast through Trans 7. And now I believe we have a broadcast deal with KTV, which is a national broadcaster there. So I'm going to show you a small clip that addresses the concept of weight, but in sort of a creative problem-solving way. And it does so actually without any verbal instruction. So I think it's a neat.
Volume up, we can hear it. Put it up a little bit more. Yes, even more. Thank you.
Okay. All right, I hope you could hear that. I almost went deaf playing it, so I hope that everyone could hear it. And if not, like I said, there wasn't any verbal thing. It just shows kind of, it's a cute episode, or a cute segment that we call Seesaw with Rhino, and basically problem solving to balance the weight so that you can play on a seesaw with someone who's bigger than you. Go back into the presentation. And I'm going to talk a little bit now about the research that we do for all of our projects. And our 3 main questions that kind of lead to our 3 types of research are children engaged? Are we reaching them? And are they learning? So in terms of their engagement, as I mentioned when I was talking about our process for working internationally, we include formative research in basically all of our projects and anytime we're creating new materials. And it's an opportunity to bring the child's voice into content development and to kind of make sure that what we are creating is appealing for children and that they're learning something from it and that it makes sense to them. And, they're not bored, but they're also getting the messages that we intend to be communicating. So we'll occasionally also ask teachers and parents for their feedback on materials that we develop and whether they think that, it's something that they would like children in their class or children in their home to be engaging with. And we ask questions about appeal and comprehension, usability, whether a given material is user-friendly, and that sort of thing. And it allows us to produce materials that are more effective so that by the time we're doing duplication and distribution, we're pretty confident that our materials are going to work well with our target audiences. The game, well, on the top you'll see that's, I believe, a shot from a formative research session in Mexico where they were actually measuring eyes on screen. So kids are watching TV and the people along the right of that photo are taking notes. So when all the kids are looking away, that's being noted on a piece of paper, and we know that that's a segment that we need to improve. We also test some of our print materials, which is what I want to talk about in the bottom of the screen here. That's it's a math bingo game that we developed for multiple countries in Southern Africa. And it's a bit complicated because this game is designed to explore numeracy concepts at multiple levels. So it allows a teacher to differentiate among children with different levels of experience or maybe children of different ages. And what was very interesting about the formative research for this particular game was that adults didn't believe that children would be able to follow it. They said it was too complicated and that, the children wouldn't like it. But then they watched their children engage with the game, and basically the adults were completely shocked by how the children were engaging with and exploring these different numeracy concepts and how they understood things and how they were sort of thinking through things. And we had adults saying things like, I had no idea my daughter thought that way. That's so interesting. And so it was a really positive and neat formative research experience for us. And it allowed us to refine the game, but also kind of stand up to some of the skeptics and say, no, this is something that children like and that, that will work with them. In terms of whether we are reaching children, these are this is actually some very, very new data. We got it last week, I think, from our market research team that's based here in New York. And we measured our reach in 21 countries, some where we have active co-productions and some where we're just on broadcast television, maybe a different, either a regional version of the show or the American version of the show that's been dubbed. And they estimate that we're reaching 98 million children between the ages of 0 and 7 in these 21 countries. So I'd also like to point out that this doesn't include every co-production that we have. So for example, Nigeria, we have an active co-production. We have new broadcast on television right now, but Nigeria wasn't one of the 21 countries assessed. So I would say it's pretty safe to say that the television content is reaching over 100 million children between the ages of 0 and 7 around the world. And that's around 10% of the global population of children in that age range. So that's pretty exciting. Our outreach kits tend to be much more in depth, and they encourage interaction to a different degree between children and their teachers or their parents. And we reach, of course, fewer children with those outreach kits, but I would still estimate that we are reaching, hundreds of thousands of children with those kits. Nigeria is a new project, and there we're going to reach around 100,000 children with our outreach print materials alone. And in the US, many things are downloadable, and in other places we have a longer presence or a bigger team on the ground. So I think it's pretty safe to say that we're reaching, hundreds of thousands of kids around the world with the outreach materials. And so finally, I'll talk a little bit about our educational impact, and I've limited it to some of our numeracy findings, since that's what's most interesting to this crowd. But if you're ever interested in a specific topic that's not numeracy related, please feel free to send me an email or a message, and I'm happy to share some of our other research findings. So on the top, Jalan Sesame is our Indonesian co-production. And children with high exposure to the show perform better than those with low and no exposure on measures of number recognition and counting. These performance measures were adjusted for baseline score, gender, age, and parent education. And this particular study was published in the International Journal of Behavioral Development. So as with general research questions, let me know if you'd like the complete citation for that, and I'd be happy to share it with you. On the bottom, Sisimpur is our co-production in Bangladesh. So children who watched this show regularly were able to demonstrate numeracy skills that were equivalent to non-viewers who were an entire year older. And the intensity of exposure to the show, so how often they saw it, was related to how well they performed on these measures. So these were fairly basic math measures, like number recognition and counting skills and understanding of sort of number object correspondence. But it's pretty impressive because in Bangladesh, we were primarily conducting this research with children who were not enrolled in formal schools. And let me check on, okay, so these associations, these sort of associations between exposure to system poor and then subsequent math performance were robust beyond the effects of family income, child age and gender, and the child's skills during the previous year. So that's all that I have right now, but I'd be happy to take any questions
Thank you
that
very
might
much,
have come
Abby.
up throughout
If you have any
the
questions, please
presentation
type them
or
in the chat box
anything
that's
anything
on the right-hand
really
side
that
of your
people would like to
screen.
know more about.
Abby, we do have one question. There's Juan wants to know, how do you deal with the lack of interactivity of TV?
Sure, it's a really good question. So there's a couple of answers to that. And one of the things that we do in our shows is try to provide children the chance to find an answer before our characters do. So we might have a pause, or we might have Elmo take a bit longer than he needs to solve a problem or to spot a clue to resolving a given situation. Another thing that we do is when we distribute DVDs or television through classrooms, we provide teacher guides on facilitated viewing. So basically, we provide teachers with a manual that helps them engage with the actual television content with the children who are watching. So it might encourage them to pause the point and say, what do you think Cookie Monster was thinking about then? Why did he do that? Or how many triangles do you think that that Abby Kadabi is going to count? So we do try to increase the interactivity of television in those ways. Another thing that we do and that we've done really all around the world is include celebrities in our co-productions. So we'll have celebrities that are probably not important to the child, but that might bring their parent over to the television and engage the parent, so the parent then begins to watch the show with and can talk to them about it after the show ends. Is there anything else? I don't. No, no, that's
As
okay.
my mic was on mute, I'm sorry. It's a question. He says, Abby, this is terrific.
Yes, we
Do you have
do. And
evidence of the
if you're
segments of the
interested in
population
one
that
of
you're
the
reaching, for
specific
example,
studies that
by
I
income or
mentioned,
SES?
I can provide you with the complete citation for it. If if there's something else specifically that you're interested in, just let me know. A specific country, a specific topic, whatever it might be, I can let you know what we have. And it varies by study, but we always do collect demographic data, and as best as possible, we try to control for it.
Thanks.
Hmm.
Elaine would like to hear more
Sure.
about the bingo
So
game. She says, I'm
basically,
very interested in this kind of tool
what that
for
game
assessing early
is a
mathematical
standard
literacy.
bingo game in that the child that's participating, or you could have a small group working together, receive a board, and it has images on it. I can click back to it maybe so you can see. It has some of those images on it that you'll see there. And the teacher then has cards that are sort of the teacher's clues that he or she will give the children. And the clue might be something like, if we're looking for the number 6, let's say. So the teacher's clue is 6. The easiest level is that the teacher says, find an image that has the number 6 in it. And so a child might look for something, I don't know, I think, well, there's 7 fish there, but there's 6 beads on the necklace up in the top row. So maybe a child chooses that one. Something else, though, if that's already if the child's kind of past that level, the teacher might say something like, I'm thinking of a number that's bigger than 5 but smaller than 7. So find a picture that represents that concept or that represents 12 minus 6. And so the teacher's actually given 3 levels of clues that he or she can use in the classroom to encourage children. The other thing that we're very big on, because we did discover during formative research that children see this game differently than adults see this game, is when the teacher then goes to see, if a child gets bingo, gets the complete row, we encourage teachers to give the children the opportunity to explain why they chose a specific thing. So why did they choose the triangle? Is the triangle 1 because it's one shape, or is the triangle 3 because it's 3 sides? Or, so basically things like that. We want to make sure that the child's kind of given the opportunity to explain his or her rationale for linking a given image to a number concept. And if you're interested in that, likewise, I can share a PDF of the game board, and I think we should have PDFs of some of the cards, and I could share those as well. If not, I'm sure we have them typed up somewhere. So just like I said, I should have put my email on the last page, but I think Deepa has it, and Deepa, feel free to stick it in the chat box if you want, or or I can provide it on the website, the Community of Practice website.
Thank you, Abby. And all of these materials will also be posted on the Community of Practice website. So I'll send instructions on how to access the material. So we have time for 2 more questions.
Yes,
Adriana
well,
says,
the short
Abby,
answer is yes, we work in Latin America.
Do you have these materials in Spanish,
Plaza
or do you work in
Sesame
Latin
is one of
American
our
countries with math and
our longest living co-productions. So it began not that long after Sesame Street. We've been around for close to 40 years at this point. Lately, our outreach has been limited, in the Latin American region, and we've kind of undergone a shift whereby our production headquarters moved from Mexico to Colombia. But that being said, I can certainly connect you with the project director for the region, and you can start to talk with him about what materials are available in Spanish. Another thing that we do is when something's appropriate, and we have sufficient support to do so, is we can translate materials into other languages. Images can be substituted. So, if maybe images are designed so that they appeal to a child in Mexico, like we could change them so feel more to a child in a specific target community or a child in another country. So all of those things are options, and just like I said, just be in touch and let me know specifically what you're looking for. Great.
Thanks, Abby. And Adriana says, that's great, thank you. I'm going to give Abby 1 more question, and then the rest of the questions we can take on the Community Practice site. If you have any questions as I'm ending the webinar, please do type them into the chat box, and I'll convey them to Abby, and then she'll answer them, and I'll post it on the site. Abby, 1 more question. Naoko has a question. She says, very interesting. About financial education lesson, has Sesame Workshop ever worked with other organizations, programs?
We have worked, though, with other organizations on financial literacy. Most robust financial literacy
which does teachers,
project
children's
is based
financial
in the US,
education.
and I believe it was supported by PNC, but I would have to check on that to be sure. We are in increasing our financial in the world, and it's especially interesting. I work primarily on our projects in West Africa, and mobile banking has become so common in Nigeria, and I'm really interested in how we might be able to some of those early financial literacy concepts with some of our content or with new content. In terms of our target audiences, generally, depending on the country, they range from 2 years, 3 years old, up to around 8 or 9 years old. But as necessary, we do also include content for for the adults. So, for example, the Ghana teacher training project that I mentioned obviously was designed to reach children through their teachers, but teachers were our primaries for that project. And we have in the past, we have developed sort of more comprehensive sets of information so that there is information to use with the preschool age child, but there's also maybe information for that child's older sibling and for the parents as well. Mhm.
Okay, thank you, Abby. So unfortunately, we've run out of time for the webinar, but the other questions I will definitely give them to Abby and she'll answer them and we'll post it on the community practice site. I'll send an email the next 2 days with information on how to access the community practice site, the material on the community practice site rather, as well as Abby's contact details so you can get in touch with her directly. So thank you very much again, Abby, for the presentation, and thank you to everyone who joined today. And we look forward to continue the discussion on the community practice site. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.